Hello, Avengers and 6th grade math. Today, we are going to talk about using scale factor to solve unknowns in ratio tables. As a quick review, remember that scale factor is when we use multiplication or division to scale something up and make it bigger, or to scale something down and make it smaller. Let me show you two examples here. In the first example, let's scale down to what's called a unit rate. So in this case, we have yellow paint and we need to figure out how much red paint do I need? We previously had a ratio of 2 yellow paints to 6 red paints, and that was right here. That's excellent information for us to know. If we scaled this down, how much red paint would there be? So you can do this by selecting and making groups. If I had 1 yellow paint, it would go with 3 red paints. But making groups is sort of takes a long time. And so we want to multiply or divide. So what I want to do is notice that if we go from 2 to 1, that's dividing by 2. And whatever I do on the top or on one side, I need to do the same thing on the other side. So notice that my arrow is going in the same direction to get into this box that's empty. And so we know that 6 divided by 2, because that's what I did on the top. So I do the same thing on the bottom. 6 divided by 2 gives me 3. And that matches with what I have up here with my red splotches. Now we have to figure out what we're going to do. So we know that this is 3. And so we have to figure out, how do we get, if I had 10 yellow paint, how much red paint would I need? So we just scaled down. Now we need to scale up. And when we scale up, we are going to multiply. So we can multiply from 1 or from 2. I think it's easier to multiply from 1 because 1 is so easy to multiply by. So let's do 1 times 10 gives me 10. And so then I do 3 times 10, and that's going to give me 30. Now let me show you a trick. Here's the trick. To know if you're right or not, you just need to take one of the paints and divide it by the other one. For example, I can take yellow paint and divide by the red paint. So I'm going to go over here and take 1. Sorry, we're going to start with the original. I'm going to take 2 divided by 6. And you'll notice that I get this long decimal, 0.33333. Let's try the same thing and take 1 divided by 3. I get the same long decimal, 0.3333. Since those are the same, we know that it's correct. Let's try the next one. 10 divided by 30. And I get 0.3333. That's the same decimal, so we got our ratio correct. Let's look at the next one. We scaled down by dividing, and we got 3. Then we multiplied to scale up and get 30. What can I multiply to scale up again and get 60? you have three options. We could take 30 times 2 is 60, right here. And then we would do 10 times 2. Or we could take 6 times 10 is 60. Or we could take 3 times 20. I think 6 times 10 is easier because I like to multiply times 10. So then if I did it on the bottom, I have to do the same thing on the top. 2 times 10 gives me 20. Let's use our division trick to see if we got it right. 20 divided by 60, and I got 0.3333. So I know that I've gotten all of these correct. I'll do another example that's similar. In this example, we're going to have to scale down because our biggest number is the one that we have. So how do I scale down from 100 to 50? Or let's actually do this. Let's go from 100 down to 1. How do I divide to get 1? If you remember back from multiplication, this is super easy. You just divide by the same number. So 100 divided by 100 is 1. So then I'm going to take 400 and I divide by the same thing that's on top. So I divide by 100, and 400 divided by 100 is 4. Let's use our division trick to see if we got it right. Red paint divided by blue paint. 100 divided by 400 is 0.25. Now, let's take 1 divided by 4. And I get 0.25. That means I got it correct. From here, let's scale up. Now that I have my unit rate, which has a 1 in it, it becomes a lot easier. So we know that this is 4. So let's scale up. 4 times what gives me 20? Well, I know that 4 times 5 is 20. So I'm going to do the same thing on the top. And I'm going to do 1 times 5 gives me 5. Now let's check and see if I got it right. Red paint divided by blue paint, 5 divided by 20. And I got 0.25, which means I got it right. The next one, let's go from 1 to 50. Well, 1 times 50 gives 50. So I take 4 times 50, and that's going to give me 200. Because 4 times 5 is 20, and I have an extra 0 on the end. Let's use my multiplication trick to see if it's my division trick to see if it's correct. 50 divided by 200 is equal to 0.25. So I know that I got this correct. In our last example, we have a ratio of white paint to red paint. And they give us the smallest ratio, which means all we have to do is scale up. So let's look. Here, we can see that we could go from 2 to 6. And the multiplication scale relationship between 2 and 6 is times 3. That is my scale factor. So whatever I do on the top, I use the same scale factor on the bottom. 3 times 3 is equal to 9. Next, Let's do from 2 to 8. We're making even more paint. 2 times 4 is 8. So my scale factor is 8. So I'm going to take 3 times 4, and I'll get 12. In the next problem, notice that the number we have is on the bottom. So we've got to be careful. Now, if you know your multiplication tables, you should know that 12 times 3 is 36. If you weren't sure, you could have just divided backwards to find out. So now I have this scale factor from 12 to 36. So I use the same scale factor on top. 8 times 3 is equal to 24. Now that we're finished, let's use our division trick to see if we got it right. Let's actually do it backwards. Let's take 3 divided by 2 just to show you that it can work in both directions. The key is that you have to do it the same. So 3 divided by 2 is 1.5. 9 divided by 6 is 1.5. 12 divided by 8 is 1.5. And 36 divided by 24 is 1.5. Since we divided and got the same product or the quotient for all of those, we know that we got the correct ratio. You need to get to 70 on your SMART score, which is over here. As a challenge, you can go all the way to 100, and you may use a calculator on this assignment.